All right, hello and welcome to the eVenture Family channel. You're joining me for another fun electric adventure, I guess, today. Although today I'm really going to be wading into it here, jumping into maybe one of the most controversial things going on right now in the world of all vehicles, not just EVs, but especially present there, which is whether or not Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are things that you absolutely must have in a vehicle or not. So I'm here with my brand new Chevy Equinox EV, which kind of sparked a bunch of this controversy, or at least reignited it recently, because it does not have either one of those and instead has Android Automotive built in. And we also just came off of a Tesla, which has got their own system, and our other car is a Rivian, which has their own built-in one. And right now we've got a rental car that we had after losing the Tesla that does have CarPlay built in. So it's the best time to kind of do a comparison of everything UI and software related in the automotive industry right now, especially in EVs. And let's see, do we really need CarPlay or not? I am sure everyone's going to have strong opinions about this one, but I've made up my mind and I'm going to share that with you now. So let's drive.
That's right.
All right, so just a couple of things and terminology and a little explanation of these different systems before we get into them. So we've got a couple of different things going on here. So first off, we have CarPlay and Android Auto. So CarPlay is Apple's version of basically like what they call projection, which is where you're using your iPhone to essentially project out apps and different views of them and have interaction points with the software screen in the vehicle. It is a two-way process, of course, so like you can touch things and interact with it through the screen, as well as having the phone like push stuff onto the screen, like notifications and things like that. It also has sort of different like levels of customization that are offered. So some manufacturers have the ability to really fully integrate with it, providing information like your speed, state of charge on the battery, even like charging rates and things like that. With all of that, there's a lot of customization of how that can be displayed on the screen. So with like the latest version that Apple announced last year, and is only maybe just starting to kind of roll out in limited versions to some vehicles like Porsche, there's a lot more with that. But in the general form that you most see now, it's essentially just like projecting some of the apps that you have onto the screen in the vehicle. So the most common ones would be, maps, media controls and playback, things like that. With CarPlay, you also have the advantage of having interoperability with most of Apple's apps. So things like iMessage notifications will pop up on screen and it can read it to you. You can use Siri for hands-free commands and things like that. And even like calendar reminders and stuff will kind of pop up. Android Auto is the Android version of that, so that works with pretty much anything built on Android. Very similar, just different selection of apps, different UI and stuff, but same overall idea there. Android Auto, as far as I know, does not have deep integration with some of those metrics that CarPlay does, but since it is super limited in terms of the number of vehicles that CarPlay actually supports with that, kind of a wash overall there. So both of those are basically ways for you to interact with the apps on your phone through a slightly different version of the interface. Then kind of a level below that, I guess, in a sense, you have systems that are called Android Automotive. And so that's actually what we have here in our Equinox. And you can see that this is basically giving me a bunch of the Android operating system and some of the Google services that come along with that, like the Play Store, Google Assistant, our maps are Google powered and everything as well. And you can see like it's even signed in with my Google account and everything. So this is Android Auto, and there are some customization options for this, but Google does give like a default UI for this, and there's some recommendations, but it can be implemented differently. What's cool about this is it also will integrate into the vehicle, so it knows state of charge for like route planning and knowing like what you'll arrive with and things like that. So pretty cool with that, and I think this is a pretty nice system as well, but we'll break it down in a little bit more detail. Then a level below that, you have Android Automotive open source system, open source, AAOS, which is sort of the underpinnings of the Android Automotive experience, but does not come with a UI as far as I know, or if it does, it's like a super stripped down one. And that is essentially just like the open source version of the operating system, which manufacturers can take and then build on. And that is actually what Rivian has done. I don't know too many other manufacturers that have done that, but it kind of gives you some of those like basic fundamental things that an e-vehicle would need, and then a bunch of like customization options on top of it, so companies like Rivian can take that and build their own skin like entirely on it, customize all of the UI and controls and everything, just kind of like plugging into the APIs that the operating system provides. So let's actually take a look at a couple of these so you can get a better idea.
Here we are in our Equinox EV, and this is really the vehicle that I think sparked a lot of the controversy around CarPlay and whether or not it is included, because GM and Chevy used to have CarPlay in pretty much all of their vehicles. You can still find it in many, but with the Equinox, it got removed when this was launched as the EV version. And instead we just have Android Auto built in here, which, Android Automotive actually, which I think is an interesting choice. Initially, I was very against it because I like CarPlay and the flexibility that it brings with it. But in this case, I actually think this has been a pretty good decision, and this is a really great implementation. So just a couple of the things that you get here that I think are worth noting. First off, we have full baked-in Google Maps here, which I know you get in CarPlay. However, this integrates state of charge in here. So if I do routing to somewhere, right? Sure, let's go to Stone Harbor. You see, it even showed me like what state of charge will arrive there with, and if we were going somewhere further, it will do routing for me. All right, so I found this to be very quick and responsive too, and it is pretty accurate. Some of the charging stops that it gives you are a little questionable. Oh yeah, and see, it even gives you like this indication of where you're gonna run out of battery range, which is really cool. So here's our stops. 13 charging stops will arrive with 30%, and you can see Charge Point, Electrify America, Green Action Studio. Interesting. So like some of those are just odd ones. Like if we look at this one, okay, it's 200 kilowatts. And I do like that you get all this information on here. However, that's only 3 chargers there, it looks like. Ooh, the Dubois one, we know that one well. So there's 4 fast chargers here. I love that it has all of this information in here, which is great. Now, one thing that is interesting is it does not currently include Tesla chargers in here. However, I think it's in here. If I go in here, I can see different ones. And here, it actually does show non-Tesla superchargers, which I think are ones with Magic Dock. And I like that it shows all of your like saved spots in here too. And then you can also just see like how crazy responsive this is. This follows my finger exactly. There's no lag at all here. It is just really, really solid. So anyway, that's one of the advantages here, is that this is a super smooth implementation, and it even includes, you know, your state of charge and awareness of the battery and the range and everything in here, which is awesome. You do not get that with CarPlay, at least most implementations of CarPlay right now. I think maybe in Ford you get that, but I'm not even sure about that. All right, and then other than that, you may be saying, well, with CarPlay, I have access to all of my media apps. And while you don't necessarily get every single one here, you do have access to the Google Play Store and all of these apps that are available in here. So you can see I have ones like Waze for navigation, which I can use in addition to Google Maps. I think in Waze I can also put what vehicle I have in here, and it'll give me range and things like that. And of course, this will also show me, you know, speed traps and things that people have reported. We also have all of our media apps here, like Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, and even Pocket Cast for our podcasts. Although you will notice we do not have Apple Music in here, which is one downside. However, I can do it over Bluetooth quite easily. And so one other cool thing here is that you have this somewhat customized view of it, you know, with all of your stuff. So it's a little bit different than what you would see in CarPlay also. And now the other thing is you have other apps in here too, like news and Alexa and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily have in CarPlay. And then I also like that you have this view, which shows you your maps and your media at the same time, which CarPlay, I mean, it has a view of it, but it's really limited, and I really don't like the use of screen real estate in it. It makes it very hard to find stuff, and it's also not customizable, so it gets blocked by like calendar invites and things that I have, which is a pain. And here we can even customize this with other stuff, change pages here, which is cool. And we even still have voice assistants here, both Alexa and Google built in as well. All right, now here we are in the Rivian, which has got its own implementation here, which is interestingly actually built on top of Android Automotive. Google's got like 3 different things, and I always forget exactly which is which, but this is essentially like the very core operating system of Android Automotive, but obviously Rivian has customized a ton on top of it. So we have this map. Oh, and by the way, this is also super responsive, very good. It can totally like track my finger and everything with no problems. So this works super well. Pinch and zoom and spin and everything, which I find works pretty poorly in a lot of CarPlay implementations, is great here. So we've got the navigation, you know, same thing with routing and everything. I've covered a lot of this in detail already, so I'm not going to go into that. But, you know, we have all of the charging information here. We have different networks. So you can customize by that. You can pick if you want to use ones that have adapters or not. This also has, you know, real-time information for the usage, and many of them even show like the price and stuff. And then they also have this charging score, which is unique to Rivian, which is based on real data from people charging there, and gives you an indication of how reliable they are, how often people are able to plug in and just get charging right away, and the rates that people are getting there in terms of charging speed. And just do a comparison here. So if we do Denver, there's all of our Rivian Adventure Network sites. More and more of those coming along, by the way, which are great to be able to use, and we can only use them in the Rivian right now. So this is a little bit slower, actually, than the Equinox just was, interestingly. And we're on Wi-Fi, so it should be quick. I'm surprised it's taking this long, usually not. Okay, there we go. So there it is, added all of our charging spots and exactly how long we need to charge there, and we can use Tesla ones in here as well, which is awesome. Okay, and then beyond navigation in here, we also have all of these apps that are integrated. So Spotify, Apple Music, Audible, phone Bluetooth. You can ask Alexa to play stuff, and TuneIn and Tidal as well. So each of these requires direct integration and implementation from the Rivian software team, and these get pushed in over-the-air updates. But we did just get one a month ago that added Apple Music and Audible, and so like these are getting added fairly regularly. We know that Sirius is going to be coming soon, and I wouldn't be surprised to see, you know, Apple or Amazon Music in a future update as well. So we are getting them, but you don't have the benefits that you do with CarPlay and the Android Auto one, where you just have like all of them available once they're kind of integrated into the stack. But I'd say like overall selection here is pretty comparable to what we have in the Equinox. And the cool thing here is because each of these are like custom integrated, you have different UIs and stuff for them, and they're just like very nice and easy to use ones, huge icons and everything. So I really like that. And you also have additional things here that you could never get in CarPlay, like these drive modes and all of this additional information in here, like your elevation and battery stats and stuff. I guess technically CarPlay does support this, but I've never seen a vehicle that actually integrates all of this stuff. So I think that's one of the big downsides with CarPlay, is that it is heavily dependent on how much the auto manufacturer decides that they're going to integrate with it and how much information they're going to make available to it. Whereas in these ones, you have all of that stuff just naturally included. All right, now here we are in the Chrysler 300 rental. And is this the like most modern car or the biggest display? No, but that's not the point. This is CarPlay here, and I just want to compare the experience. So here we go with the finger. Actually, that's not quite as bad as I thought it was, but definitely still some lag in there. And no pinch to zoom. You have to go like through here to do it. That's on Google Maps, but although to be fair, that's what you do have in the other cars. I think here in Apple, yeah, although this is even laggier. Oh no, we can't pinch and zoom in here either. Yep. Okay, but we do have even more apps here, which is nice. So once again, these apps do at least need to be enabled for CarPlay and implemented that way. So you're not going to get everything for free either. There is some work that has to happen here, but generally there are more apps available for CarPlay. So we have, of course, all of the Apple native ones here. Including messages, which we don't have in the Rivian, but we do have in the Equinox. Meaning like our text messages at least get read, and in the Equinox they get displayed even, which is kind of interesting. The Tesla did have its own custom implementation of that, but the Rivian does not, at least yet, and I don't know why they haven't done it, because it's like one of the top requested features, but I think they're working on it. Then we have all of our like charging apps here. We even have like Dunkin' for, I guess, making orders and doing pickup and stuff. You can just see how many different like charging apps that we've had to install over the years for stuff. But then, you know, we have Google Maps, which is nice to be able to have both Apple and Google in here. We have things like Libby for audiobooks, which I think actually we did have in the Equinox too. So there's really not too much here other than Apple Music, which is not available in the Equinox at least. Many of these are not in the Rivian, but we're getting more and more there. And the delta here, the gap, is not that big these days anymore. And most of the features and functionality, at least, you'll get there. And then here's this view I was talking about that has like everything all together here. But I mean, look at the size of like this stuff. It's size smaller than my hand for the map. And then the media controls, you know, there's no information. It's just like play, pause, and skip forward and backward. And then half of it is taken up by, not half, a third of it is taken up by calendar invite stuff, which is just always there. So I don't love this, and you know, I think it's certainly better than like, let's compare here for a minute just to be fair. This is the native software that we're dealing with here. Like, this is useless, and I do not use it at all. Terrible. Oh, at least it has pinch and zoom though. You gotta give it that. So I mean, this is obviously, you know, very low. Look at that, the water moves. Oh, you know what? I'm changing my mind. I love this. This is the best one. But you know, anyway, it's a very low bar here that these things need to beat. So I'm not at all arguing that CarPlay is not a step up from some of this terrible built-in software. If you can get it, great. If it's the best thing that a manufacturer can do, then I would certainly rather they have it than their own like horrible software like what we've got in here. But when it comes to comparison between CarPlay and native, like good software first implementation, like a lot of times we're talking about with Tesla, Rivian, even now with Android Auto in the Equinox, I really don't know. I don't think CarPlay is the be all end all like people are making it out to be. I think these built-in systems can be just as good and even better. And in the case of Rivian, the integration with like all of the different charging networks and plug and charge, I mean, just it makes the EV experience itself much easier having all of that stuff just like natively integrated. Plus you have all of the things like the drive mode controls, the battery temperature, the motor temperatures, all of those kinds of things that technically could be implemented in CarPlay, but like I said, I've never seen them done before. So all of that first party stuff is really nice, and the UI is just awesome and so easy to use when you're driving too. You don't have to be like messing with these little tiny icons and stuff like you do on the screen for CarPlay. And then same thing in the Equinox too, with that nice expansive screen. It is very easy to find and use stuff, and I am just really enjoying that. So all of that together, I would say I'm kind of a fan of these built-in things over CarPlay, unless we're talking about this. Although, did you notice before, look at the water.
Fancy.
Yeah. All right, well, with that, that's my little comparison between the different types of software you can get in a vehicle. I am sure you probably have already let me know in the comments below, but if not, definitely let me know your thoughts on CarPlay versus some of these other implementations. Are you a do-or-die CarPlay stan, or do you feel like it's a little bit more nuanced like I do? I know this is one of the most controversial things in the entire automotive industry right now, and there are just people that will not entertain a doubt about CarPlay and would not buy a vehicle that doesn't have it going forward. But based off my experience here so far, I would say Tesla, Rivian, or Chevy now, any of these are totally acceptable without CarPlay, and it is not such a make or break thing anymore, and I'm going to be fine without it.
As long as the software is good.
As long as the software is good. All right, well with that, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you out there for another electric adventure soon.